Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are talking Real Housewives of New Jersey. Today there has been a release of a podcast from Melissa Gorga where she interviews her husband on her On Display Apple podcast. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the Gorgas are sharing with us. Before we get started though, guys, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, turn those notifications on. I'm definitely trying to grow my channel, so you should subscribe. All right guys, so we don't need to walk back everything that's been going on in New Jersey. We know Teresa was married. We know that there's been a lot of different rumors going a lot of different ways when it comes to the many reasons on why Joe and Melissa Gorga did not attend Teresa Giudice's wedding to Louis Relis. One very important thing, Joe is alleging that he was not asked to walk his sister down the aisle. I was shocked. So I really want to know what you guys think about that. But let's break the whole podcast down a little bit better than just them saying that they have a lot of dirt on a lot of people and they're tired of being good guys who finish last. And there's so much stuff that we just don't know. Yeah, so much of that throughout the whole podcast. Anyways, let's start from the beginning. First of all, it's very funny that Melissa has her own podcast. She's had it for like, I don't know, did she have it last season? I think so. And we've discussed before, guys, how this really gives her a platform to kind of give her opinion and talk about her narrative. A lot of times we see the housewives getting frustrated because, you know, they can't really control the edit on the show and how it comes out. They're not producers. And so the podcast, the Candy Days and Nights, Heather Dubrow, they all have these different sort of platforms where they come on and talk about the Real Housewives, and it kind of gives them a chance to say what they want to, how they want to, and control how it's aired. And so that's what we're seeing from Melissa. And Teresa is taking notes, okay? She is now getting her own podcast. And I basically think the two are going to, their podcasts are going to be fighting, but it's going to be them fighting using their podcasts. I'm just telling you guys what it's going to be. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that in this specific podcast, Melissa and Joe are speaking about Melissa's family and how amazing they are and how funny they are and how they can't believe they haven't gotten a spinoff with just Melissa, Joe, and Melissa's family. Now, before we break all of that down, let's talk about the fact that we know that Melissa kind of rubs her family in Teresa's face. Like, she has a bunch of sisters. She has her mom. Her dad passed away when she was like 16 or 17. Her sisters are older than her, so I think that they are protective. At least that's what they portray on the show. And we know that Melissa's sister is kind of what started the whole fight at the baptism, the christening party, when we first saw Melissa and Joe when they were introduced to the show, and that whole fight took place with Joe Gorga, Teresa, and Joe Giudice. The sister was sitting at the table with Melissa and Joe, so when Teresa came up to say hello, they ended up in a problematic conversation. So her sisters don't seem to be afraid to jump in. They have Instagrams with very, very, very high number of followers, very high. And they all list themselves as like big sis to Melissa Gorga. So sometimes I feel like Melissa is rubbing her family and her sisters in Teresa's face. I really do. Being an only child, like, I just think that that would hurt my feelings if I was Teresa and I didn't have any sisters and didn't have any other family. And, you know, her family, she has sisters that love her and a mom and all these, you know, nieces and nephews, and they all go to each other's parties and support each other. And so Teresa, you know, she's missing that. And she has to hear Melissa talk about it, and sometimes I think it's intentional. Last season we saw Melissa at the Shore House whenever there was Teresa and Joe were fighting at the Shore House. When her sisters were there and she went to take photos with her mom and sister, she was like, oh my gosh, thank God I have a normal family, taking a shot at, you know, Teresa and Joe. And I think that Joe doesn't really mind that she says that, but I think it hurts his feelings a little bit too, to be honest. But now that Joe, you know, they treat him like family, I think that he, you know, plays off of that. And so therefore, they think that they should have their own show. And so they think they should do a pilot and a couple of episodes because Melissa's family is hilarious and they have their own content. And I think that this was Melissa's way of hitting back at the people that are saying that Melissa hasn't really had an original, authentic storyline, and that she plays off of Teresa's storylines. Maybe by default, maybe not by default, but, you know, their roles are usually centered around some sort of craziness around whatever's going on in Teresa's life. And Teresa's had a lot of crazy things going on. You know, she went to prison, her husband went to prison, she got divorced, she got married. So there's been a lot of things going on in her life, and the Gorgas got married. You know, they haven't had those sorts of things for, you know, not, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, I don't know. But if you want to be on TV and you're trying to be a reality star and you need a storyline, then maybe it's not a good thing. But that was definitely Melissa shooting back at people that say she only has storylines off of Teresa. Then they start playing off of each other about how they can't, you know, they can't tell us everything, but all of the rumors that they've read about what happened, you know, none of them, she hasn't read the actual real reason. It hasn't made its way to the press. They say that they've covered up so many times they've covered up for people, and not just Teresa, other people on the show as well. And you know what? Joe's like, I can hold my head up high, because Melissa's like, well, why do we keep covering this stuff up? She's like, because now I'm looking back and I'm really starting to like second guess. And he goes on this huge tyrant, if you will, speech about how, you know, they believe in karma and he can hold his head high and they are good people, blase, blase, blase. And then they start to, you know, keep playing off of the whole, we have crazy info on somebody else on the cast type of thing. And Joe's like, well, you know what? Good people finish last, and maybe we should just stop doing that. You know, maybe we should just stop holding back. You know, I mean, we just got so much stuff on these people, and we're always covering stuff up, but we don't lie. We just cover up for everybody, but we don't lie. We've been on the show for 13 years, and Joe talks about how real he is and how he doesn't lie, and how you can't lie on reality TV. The truth will always come out. And, you know, he just very much talking about his integrity, if you will. But it just seems to kind of it's conflicting to the fact that you're like, oh, but we cover up all this stuff for everyone else. We cover up all of this stuff for Teresa and this other cast member, crazy stuff. But we're authentic, and we don't have nothing to cover up over here. So yeah, nothing to cover up over here. Just keep it going. Just joking. Then they start to talk about how it affects their children, which understandable. I mean, anyone in reality TV, I think if they have teenage children, especially in the reality world, it's probably not going to be great for your kids. I think that's like normal for any of the people that have had kids on the reality series. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy for Jen's kids when the affair came out. It hasn't been easy for Margaret's children. They still don't even want to be mentioned. So I don't think it's easy for any of the children, any of the time. But that's a sacrifice when you're on reality TV. I still want to go back to the fact that he says, everyone keeps asking, like, why they can't believe I wasn't there to walk my sister down the aisle. And he says, well, the truth is I wasn't asked. And that hurt my heart a little bit. And I thought, I hope that Teresa did not ask him to walk her down the aisle. You know what I mean? Because I do think that Joe's heart is in the right place, like regardless of Melissa and other circumstances. Joe's heart's definitely in the right place when it comes to his sister. And I think that he would have loved to have walked her down the aisle. And what happens is now he like doesn't feel wanted around her family as in like her and her girls. I think that the show has created like an insecurity that even before they could be nice to each other's face, and Joe could go home and talk shit to Melissa quietly about Teresa and Joe Giudice, and Joe Giudice and Teresa would go home and talk shit with each other about one another, right? But when the show came along, they couldn't just, all of their stuff they were saying about each other behind their backs started to come out. And so that has caused an insecurity with Joe Gorga, the brother, because he doesn't feel like he's like wanted around her. Like, he's like, I feel like, am I wanted here? Do the girls want me here? Like, I can understand that because there's been so much said that I think he feels maybe like when Teresa is trying to be nice and she is trying to be loving, that he doesn't believe it or he doesn't think it's authentic because of everything else that goes around in the press and just people and gossip. And maybe some of it's true, maybe some of it's not true. He said it just came a time where he needed to choose his own family over his sister, and he said that he's watched Melissa get kicked in the face over and over and over, and how she's always just taken it. That didn't sound exactly right to me, because I feel like Melissa, she may have been forgiving and given Teresa grace, but I don't think that her hands are clean either. And I think that she would, I don't know, I think that she makes moves sometimes too that we don't always know about. So we'll just leave it at that, guys. Also saying that this does affect their children, of course, because of the fact that Antonia wanted to know why they weren't going to the wedding, because she wanted to go, because I think she's close with her cousins. I think the children are close. I think the children, she doesn't have any sisters, and I think she's close with Teresa's children. So maybe they just choose not to discuss it, which is good, because it's not trickling down from generation to generation. We kind of see this happen with Kathy and Kim and Kyle, because whenever they're fighting, their children are always trying to get them to make up, they want to spend holidays and Christmases and everything together as one family. So it's nice at least the children aren't fighting, because when it came to Teresa and Joe, when their parents got mad at someone, they got mad at them too. So at least they've taught their children better, and hopefully it stays that way. But it left an uncomfortable taste in my mouth after the podcast. It does feel like Melissa isn't necessarily like so authentic. That's just my opinion, but maybe yours would be different. I just felt like it was kind of bougie too. Like they went on and on about how everything they had before the show. They had the house before the show. They bought Antonio this very, very expensive car, and Joe tells a really sweet story about how he surprised her with it after he told her for a couple of months that there were no cars available. And Melissa says it's a really pretty fancy car, but that she's a great daughter. And Joe's just very sweet when he talks about his children. Again, a great father. I just think that Melissa sometimes, I don't know, I just can't always put my finger on it, but there's just things that she says I don't necessarily like the way that she says them. And it's so funny, guys, because we're hearing that she's being iced out right now, and that really nobody is messing with the Gorgas. The only people really speaking to the Gorgas are Marge and her husband, and the new girl who Melissa brought onto the show. Side note, so funny, because it was the girl's birthday. I can't remember. Is it Jenna? I can't remember her name offhand. I'm so sorry. She's one of the new girls on the show. She's Melissa's friend. She's who Melissa is bringing. I think it's Laura. And it's her birthday. It was her birthday a couple of days ago. So Melissa posts this picture of her and the girls, 6 other girls, and then the birthday girl. And the birthday girl's face isn't even really in the picture. She's kind of behind Melissa. And Melissa has her head back, and she's this kind of, and it's a happy birthday post to her friend, but you can't even see her friend's face. And so somebody commented leave it to Melissa Gorga to post a picture for somebody's birthday and their face is barely in it. And Melissa commented back and said she chose it. I don't know, guys. It was just funny to me. So before you go, though, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I do have a text line coming that I will be leaving the phone number in the description and posting it in the comments, so that if you guys have any you can text about anything, any questions, if you have any tea that you want to discuss, photos, anything basically. So I'll give you guys the number. You guys are free to text away if you want to text in your email address, and I can add you to a list of people that'll just get notifications when I'm going live, or have certain tea or whatever the case may be. I'll basically keep you updated. So if you are interested, then you can send your email address in via text. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day. Tomorrow's Friday. so happy. And we will all talk soon. Bye.